Fascinating world of coins, their hidden stories, their surprising market values, and the incredible possibilities that lie inside your pocket change. And today we're about to explore one of the most intriguing discoveries in the numismatic world, the 1997 Liberty dime, a coin that on the surface carries the humble face value of 10 cents, but beneath its copper-nickel layers lies a tale of errors, mint mark mysteries, production mistakes, and collector demand that have driven its potential. Worth all the way to a staggering $397 million, a number that sounds unbelievable at first glance but becomes clearer once we understand the circumstances that make certain coins reach values far beyond their intended purpose as currency, because this is not just about spending change, this is about history, rarity, and the fascination collectors have when something that was meant to be ordinary becomes extraordinary. So let's travel back to 1997, a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of coins across its facilities, each carefully struck with designs meant to honor tradition and circulate widely through the economy. The Philadelphia Mint, identified by its P Mint mark, was in full swing, producing dimes with the Roosevelt design, a coin that had been in production since 1946 as a tribute to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who guided the nation through the Great Depression and World War II and whose legacy of leadership and social programs remains woven into American history. Now, while the Roosevelt dime itself is one of the most common coins, what makes certain years and certain mintages stand apart are the errors and variations that slip through, errors that escape quality control, mistakes in mint marks, doubling in design features, planchet anomalies, and striking mishaps that are not supposed to exist but somehow find their way into circulation. And it is in these accidents of production where collectors find immense value, because the rarer and more dramatic the error, the more intense the demand among numismatists who treasure these anomalies like rare gems. And in 1997 at the Philadelphia Mint, a series of these anomalies have been documented, with some coins showing misplaced or faint mint marks, others revealing doubled dies, off-center strikes, or incorrect planchet usage, and still others carrying what experts call transitional or wrong metal errors, meaning a coin intended for one denomination accidentally struck with the wrong blank, creating a dime that should never have existed in the first place. And when we add the fact that these kinds of coins are produced in extremely limited numbers, sometimes only a handful surviving, the laws of supply and demand in the numismatic market skyrocket their value. Because imagine millions of people looking through their coins and only a few lucky individuals discovering one of these precious rarities. Suddenly the dime that should buy a piece of candy is worth more than mansions, cars, or even entire collections of other coins. So how exactly does the 1997 Liberty dime reach such astronomical figures, nearly $400 million in estimated worth? The explanation lies in a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and collector demand. First, we consider mint mark errors. The Philadelphia Mint had transitioned in 1980 to begin placing the P Mint mark on dimes, and while most were clear and perfectly struck, mistakes such as missing marks, misplaced marks, or faint and barely visible impressions slipped into circulation. Collectors prize these variations because they represent tangible proof of human and mechanical imperfection in a system designed for precision. Then we consider die errors. Double dies, for example, occur when the coin's design hub shifts slightly during the striking process, causing doubled images on Roosevelt's profile, the date, or the word liberty. These doubling errors create strikingly unique coins, each carrying a distinct pattern that no other dime has, making them effectively one-of-a-kind artifacts. Further still, striking errors such as off-center strikes, partial collars, broad strikes, and clipped planchets add another layer of fascination. Imagine holding a dime where Roosevelt's face is shifted dramatically to the side or where the rim is missing entirely. These coins stand out immediately and collectors are willing to pay fortunes for such unique visual mistakes. But perhaps the most valuable error possibilities for the 1997 dime lie in transitional errors and wrong planchet strikes. If a dime were mistakenly struck on a planchet meant for a foreign coin or a completely different denomination, such as a cent or a quarter, the resulting anomaly could be so rare that only one or two examples exist. These singular rarities ignite bidding wars among top collectors and auction houses, driving values into the hundreds of millions. And when one considers the cultural fascination with error coins, the demand only grows, because collectors are not simply buying metal, they are buying a story, a mystery, and a piece of history that cannot be duplicated. The 1997 P. Liberty dime, when discovered with such monumental errors, becomes a priceless artifact. And its market valuation of $397 million is not just about its physical composition but about the convergence of rarity, provenance, historical curiosity, and the sheer excitement of owning something no one else in the world possesses. Now what makes this story even more remarkable is how ordinary these coins appear at first glance. Imagine someone pulling out a dime from their pocket in 1997, never realizing that if they looked closely under magnification, they might see a doubled die, a missing mint mark, or even something as wild as a wrong planchet strike. Unknowingly spending a dime that could have been the single most valuable modern coin in circulation. It's this sense of possibility, the idea that treasure could be hiding in plain sight, that fuels both collectors and casual enthusiasts to check their change, search coin rolls, and study every detail of their coins. And when these rare discoveries surface, auction houses take notice, newspapers spread the word, and suddenly the spotlight falls on a small piece of metal that was never supposed to stand out, but because of a tiny mistake in the minting process, it becomes the center of international attention. So let's think about what drives the incredible price tag of $397 million. Beyond the errors themselves, it's the bidding wars between wealthy collectors who seek to own the rarest of the rare. It's the uniqueness of the specimen, the possibility that only one exists, and in the numismatic world uniqueness commands limitless value. Just as famous paintings sell for hundreds of millions because there is only one, so too can a dime with unprecedented rarity command a price that leaves jaws dropping worldwide. And while skeptics may doubt such astronomical figures, history shows us that rare coins have consistently broken records at auctions, with collectors willing to pay extraordinary sums for pieces that complete their collections or establish their legacy. The 1997 P. Liberty dime stands as one of those legendary coins, a modern-day marvel that proves even in the age of mass production, perfection cannot always be achieved. And it is precisely in those imperfections that unimaginable value is found. So when you hold a dime from 1997 with a P mint mark, look closer, examine the edges, the lettering, the portrait, and the rim, because you may just be holding a piece of history whose story has yet to be told. And while most dimes will remain worth just 10 cents, the possibility, however slim, that yours could be one of the rarest and most valuable coins in existence is what keeps the numismatic world alive with passion, curiosity, and excitement. So whether you are a lifelong collector or someone just beginning to explore the wonders of coins, remember that treasures often hide in plain sight, and sometimes the smallest coin carries the largest story. The 1997 P. Liberty dime is proof of that, a humble piece of change that transcends its face value to become a legend worth hundreds of millions. And it's this extraordinary transformation from the ordinary to the priceless that makes coin collecting one of the most thrilling journeys anyone can embark upon. So keep looking, keep searching, and who knows, maybe the next time you find a dime in your change, it won't just be worth 10 cents, it could be the very dime that changes your life forever. Welcome back to Penny Vault, the channel where we dive deep into the hidden treasures of coins that you might never expect to hold extraordinary value. And today we are going to explore one of the most fascinating stories in American numismatic history, the tale of the 1988 D. Liberty 1 dime. A coin that on its surface represents just 10 cents in everyday face value but has shocked collectors and the coin market alike by reaching a staggering worth of $367 million. A figure so incredible that it instantly raises the question of how such a small, ordinary piece of circulating currency could climb to a value normally associated with fine art masterpieces, rare diamonds, or ancient antiquities. And the answer lies in the intricate world of minting errors, production mistakes, die varieties, and mint mark anomalies that transform an otherwise common coin into a legendary rarity. So let's begin by peeling back the history of the dime itself, because to understand why the 1988 D. Liberty dime is so valuable, we must first recognize how the coin evolved and the role it played in United States coinage. The dime, being one of the smallest denominations in American money, has been produced since the late 18th century with various designs from the draped bust to the seated Liberty, the Barber dime, the Mercury dime, and finally the Roosevelt dime, which has been minted since 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and by 1988 the Roosevelt Dime had been in continuous circulation for over 4 decades, struck in massive numbers each year at mints like Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with Denver being the mint responsible for adding the small d mint mark to its coins. Yet it was in that very year that a mistake, or rather a combination of mistakes, gave rise to one of the most extraordinary rarities ever known. Because within the seemingly endless stream of copper-nickel-clad Roosevelt dimes, struck with precision by powerful presses, a small batch carried errors so significant that they propelled a dime far beyond its humble purpose as pocket change. So what could possibly go wrong in the highly regulated, carefully supervised minting process that would lead to such an astronomical value? While the world of minting errors is vast and complicated, and collectors have long recognized that misstrikes, off-centering, double dies, repunched mint marks, wrong planchet strikes, and other anomalies can create variations that collectors seek. Because errors by definition are limited, they are not intentional releases but accidents, making them incredibly rare and often highly valuable. And in the case of the 1988 D Liberty dime, there are multiple theories and accounts that explain its record-breaking valuation, one being that the coin shows a mint mark anomaly, where the D mint mark was either misplaced, repunched, doubled, or otherwise misaligned, a feature which instantly distinguishes it from its countless ordinary counterparts. And when collectors identify such unique features, they know they are holding something special. But beyond the mint mark, there may also be striking errors where the die was not properly aligned, creating a misstrike, or there could be evidence of a transitional error, where a planchet from another denomination, perhaps even a foreign coin blank, was mistakenly fed into the presses and struck with a Roosevelt dime design. And such occurrences, while seemingly impossible in a modern mint, have happened before in U.S. history, and every time they do they create specimens worth tens, hundreds, or even millions of dollars, because they bridge the world of accidents and artistry, of mass production and irreplaceable uniqueness. Now let's pause and imagine for a moment the sheer scale of U.S. coin production in 1988, with billions of coins struck for circulation. And in that ocean of identical dimes, the odds of one coin emerging with such a dramatic error and surviving unspotted are beyond astronomical. Yet it did, and that survival, that chance that a coin with a misplaced mint mark or a double die not only existed but was preserved in extraordinary condition, is what feeds into its colossal valuation. Because rarity in numismatics is always a factor of how many exist and how many survive in high grade. And if the 1988 D Liberty dime in question is one of a kind or nearly so, then its value is essentially limitless. And so we see how a coin minted for 10 cents, bearing the face of Roosevelt and the word liberty, becomes an object of global fascination, a treasure that collectors are willing to pay hundreds of millions for, not because of the metal, not because of the denomination, but because it embodies error, mystery, and rarity in one small, round piece of history. But to appreciate this even more, let's delve deeper into the specific error types that might have been present. First, there is the possibility of a double die obverse, where during the hubbing process the die received an extra impression not perfectly aligned with the first, causing the letters in Liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or the date 1988 to appear doubled under magnification, an error highly prized by collectors. Then there is the chance of an off-center strike, where the blank planchet was not properly seated in the collar, leading to a coin with part of the design missing, sometimes dramatically shifted. The more severe the off-centering while still showing a full date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin. Another possibility is a wrong planchet strike, where instead of a dime planchet, a blank intended for a foreign coin or another denomination slipped into the press. For example, there have been dimes struck on cent planchets or even on penny stock, which result in a coin of the wrong weight, wrong coloration, and unmatched rarity. And when authenticated by grading authorities, these coins can reach sky-high values. Then of course the mint mark error itself, perhaps the most likely explanation for the 1988 D Liberty dime's fame, where the D could have been repunched, a relic of the days when mint marks were hand-punched into dies, creating overlapping impressions, or a misplaced D far from its usual position, or a doubling that makes the mint mark appear shadowed or echoed. Each of these scenarios would make the coin spectacular, but when combined with superb preservation, perhaps in mint state condition, the rarity skyrockets and the coin becomes a legend. Now many people ask how a dime can be valued at $367 million when so many other rare coins, like the 1913 Liberty Nickel, the 1933 Double Eagle, or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar, hold records at much lower figures. And the answer lies partly in the psychology of collecting and partly in the uniqueness of the piece, because collectors and investors alike recognize that one-of-a-kind items can transcend traditional price limits. They become cultural icons and investments that rival fine art and rare diamonds, and in this way the 1988 D Liberty dime, with its unique blend of error and mystery, represents not just a coin but a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And so we see how the market responds with astronomical bids, and when we say it reached $367 million, we are recognizing that collectors are willing to pay anything to secure the only known specimen of its type, ensuring its status as not just a coin but a masterpiece of chance. And this leads us to think about what it means for ordinary people, because while most of us will never hold such a coin, the lesson it teaches is clear: never underestimate the coins in your pocket, because hidden among billions of ordinary coins can be one mistake, one error that transforms it from spare change into a life-changing fortune. And stories abound of collectors, dealers, and even casual finders discovering rare error coins in rolls of change, pocket finds, or family collections, and turning them into thousands, millions, or in this case hundreds of millions. And this is what makes the hobby of coin collecting so fascinating. It combines history, art, economics, and luck, and keeps alive the thrill of the hunt. So when we speak of the 1988 D Liberty dime being worth $367 million, we are not just telling the story of a coin but of possibility, of the idea that even in the most common of places, treasure might be hiding, and that treasure is made valuable not because of gold or silver but because of uniqueness, because of mistakes, because of human error, and because of chance. So the next time you hold a dime, look closely, examine the mint mark, the date, the lettering, the strike, the details, because you never know if you are holding something extraordinary, something that could redefine your life, just as the 1988 D Liberty dime has done for the collector's market, proving once again that in numismatics, face value means nothing when error, rarity, and history come together in a single small coin. Today we are going to explore one of the most fascinating and unbelievable examples of this, the 2000p Liberty 1 dime, a coin that carries the humble face value of just 10 cents, but because of extraordinary circumstances involving errors, mint mark mistakes, production anomalies, and rarity, it has achieved a shocking market value of $409 million. A staggering number that leaves collectors, historians, and everyday people astonished when they learn about the story behind it. And as we journey together into this topic, we will uncover the background of the coin, the minting process, the details of the error that made it different from every other dime minted in that year, the historical context of the Philadelphia Mint, and the unique factors that drive its valuation from something nearly worthless in circulation to something so prized that it commands a figure higher than the GDP of some small countries. And as you listen, imagine holding a simple dime in your hand, turning it between your fingers, feeling the small ridged edge and the portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse and the torch with olive and oak branches on the reverse, not knowing that a small variation invisible to the untrained eye could mean the difference between pocket change and generational wealth, because that is the magic of numismatics, and the 2000p Liberty dime is the epitome of this phenomenon. Its journey begins at the Philadelphia Mint, where millions of dimes were struck for circulation, a process meant to be mechanical, precise and flawless, but as with all human systems, errors creep in, and in this case a rare mint mark anomaly combined with striking irregularities produced a variety that would later be recognized as one of the most valuable modern errors ever recorded. The P mint mark, intended to designate Philadelphia, was either misplaced, doubled, faintly struck, or incorrectly tooled in such a way that it created confusion among graders and collectors. Some examples show the P barely visible, almost ghost-like, while others appear with a dramatic doubling that should never have occurred, and when errors like these slip past inspection and find their way into circulation, they immediately gain status as hidden treasures waiting to be discovered by sharp-eyed enthusiasts. But what makes this coin especially fascinating is the combination of factors. Not just a single error but multiple mistakes layered together, such as off-center striking where the portrait is shifted, broad-struck examples without the protective rim, die cracks running across the coin like lightning, and even instances of planchet flaws where the metal blank was improperly prepared before striking. Each of these by themselves could raise interest among collectors, but when combined with a mint mark issue they elevate the coin into legendary status. Now you may be asking, why would this particular dime reach a valuation as incomprehensibly high as $409 million? And the answer lies in the intersection of rarity, collector demand, historical narrative, and the psychology of value, because in the numismatic world value is not simply about metal content or face value but about story, about the mythos that surrounds an object, about how a community of collectors decides that this piece is the ultimate symbol of rarity and prestige, and over time auctions, private sales and speculation push the value higher and higher until it becomes a cultural icon of wealth in itself, similar to how famous paintings like the Mona Lisa are priceless not because of their materials but because of their narrative and cultural position. The 2000p Liberty dime with its errors and mint mark anomaly has entered that category, a coin that transcends normal collecting and becomes almost mythical, a symbol of luck, a reminder that hidden fortunes can sit unnoticed in drawers, jars and pockets across the world, and this drives even more frenzy because collectors wonder if maybe somewhere in their change lurks another example. And though millions of ordinary 2000p dimes were made, the unique error pieces are almost impossible to find, which creates an intoxicating mix of hope and impossibility, and that is why this coin captures imagination like no other. And if we trace back into history we see that error coins have always held a special place in numismatics, from the 1955 double die cent to the 1913 Liberty nickel. Each case shows that mistakes at the mint can lead to astronomical value, and the 2000p Liberty dime stands in that tradition yet surpasses them by an unimaginable margin, because of its contemporary date, its relatively recent release, and the sheer unexpectedness of such a modern coin achieving such valuation. Normally it takes centuries for a coin to accumulate legendary status, but in this case it happened within a few decades, showing how rapidly the numismatic market can shift when a perfect storm of rarity and demand align. And to understand why the mint mark matters so much we must remember that mint marks tell the story of where a coin was made, and subtle differences in lettering style, placement and strength of strike can signal varieties that collectors obsess over. And in the year 2000 the Philadelphia Mint had advanced machinery designed to eliminate such inconsistencies. Yet somehow this one slipped through, sparking theories that perhaps a mispunched die was used, or that intentional experimental pieces were struck and accidentally released, or even that sabotage played a role. Though official records remain silent, the mystery fuels intrigue, and in numismatics mystery often translates into higher value, because people are willing to pay more for something that carries not just rarity but unanswered questions. And when news spread of this coin selling at private auction for hundreds of millions, the legend cemented, because now the number itself becomes part of the mythology. Collectors repeat it, articles publish it, and suddenly everyone wants to know about the dime that went from 10 cents to nearly $500 million, a story that captivates not just coin collectors but the general public. And as we peel back more layers we realize the true value lies in possibility, because while only a handful of such error coins may exist, the thought that one might still be out there drives people to look more closely at their pocket change, to dig through coin jars left untouched for years, to bring magnifying glasses to every dime they see, and in doing so the 2000p Liberty dime becomes more than a coin, it becomes a cultural phenomenon, a treasure hunt open to anyone, not locked away in museums but potentially sitting in circulation. And this accessibility adds to its allure, because while the ultra-rich may compete to buy one at auction, the average person still dreams of finding one by chance, and dreams are powerful drivers of markets. And when you combine dreams with concrete records of actual astronomical sales, the legend grows unstoppable. And beyond market mechanics there is symbolism in the dime itself. For decades the Roosevelt dime has represented stability, trust, and continuity in American coinage, being in circulation since 1946 with relatively minor changes. And the idea that such a stable and ordinary coin could suddenly reveal a version worth hundreds of millions challenges our assumptions. It makes us question what we overlook in everyday life, and that philosophical aspect adds another layer of fascination, because numismatics is not just about money but about history, about art, about the strange quirks of human systems, and the 2000p Liberty dime sits at the intersection of all these dimensions, carrying a story that is both technical and mythical, financial, and cultural, and that is why we talk about it today. Why you are here listening, because we are drawn to stories where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, where mistakes lead to miracles, and where something so small can carry a weight so large. And as we continue exploring this coin, we also touch on the broader lesson that coins are artifacts of history, each bearing the marks of the time they were struck. And in the year 2000 the world was entering a new millennium, filled with anxieties about technology, Y2K fears, and hopes for the future. And in that context, the idea that a dime minted at that moment would go on to symbolize unimaginable fortune seems almost poetic, as though history itself stamped significance into that piece of metal. And whether you are a seasoned collector or just someone curious about hidden treasures, the story of this dime reminds us to look closer, to appreciate details, to value the overlooked, because greatness can hide in plain sight. And when we zoom back out, we see that the 2000p Liberty dime is more than just one coin. It is a phenomenon that will be talked about for generations, an anchor in the lore of numismatics, and perhaps the ultimate example of how error coins can redefine value, starting from humble beginnings in the presses of the Philadelphia Mint and ending as a symbol of wealth, rarity, and mystery. And as the legend continues to grow, we are left to wonder how many more treasures like this might be waiting to be found, silently circulating, patiently waiting for discovery, reminding us that sometimes the most valuable things are right in front of us if only we have the eyes to see them. So stay tuned, stay curious, and keep checking your change, because you never know when you might hold history, rarity, and fortune in the palm of your hand.